Most people think memory loss during sleep is just normal aging. It is not. What actually happens in your brain between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. determines whether you wake up sharp or foggy. And most adults over 60 are unknowingly sabotaging that window every single night. I am Dr. Elias Thorne, neurological clinician based in Chicago. I have spent over 22 years studying how the aging brain behaves during sleep cycles, and I have worked with more than 3,000 patients over 60 who came to me with the same complaint. They called it brain fog. They called it senior moments. They blamed stress or age or their family history. But when I looked at the actual biology, the answer was almost always the same, and it had nothing to do with any of those things. Here is what most doctors are not telling you. Your brain has a waste clearance system called the glymphatic system. It only activates fully during deep sleep. During those hours, cerebrospinal fluid flushes through your brain tissue, physically washing out toxic proteins, including amyloid beta, which accumulates in the early stages of cognitive decline. This is not a theory. This was confirmed in research published in the journal Science as far back as 2013, and subsequent studies at the University of Rochester confirmed the mechanism in human subjects. The point is this: if your deep sleep is being disrupted, even slightly, your brain is not being cleaned properly. Night after night, year after year, and the buildup accelerates. The problem is that after 60, your deep sleep architecture begins to change. The proportion of slow-wave sleep, the phase where glymphatic activity peaks, drops significantly. Some of my patients over 65 are getting less than 45 minutes of true slow-wave sleep per night. The standard recommendation used to be 7 to 9 hours of sleep, but total hours are almost meaningless if the quality of those hours is compromised. You can sleep 8 hours and still wake up depleted, still wake up reaching for words that were there yesterday, still feel like your thoughts are moving through something thick. This is not inevitable. But it does require understanding what is actually driving the disruption and addressing it at the biological level. There are 3 mechanisms I focus on with my patients. The first is cortisol dysregulation. Cortisol, your stress hormone, follows a circadian rhythm. It should be at its lowest point between midnight and 4 a.m. But chronic low-grade stress, which is extremely common in adults over 60, flattens that curve. When cortisol stays elevated at night, it directly suppresses slow-wave sleep. Your brain cannot enter the restorative phases it needs. The glymphatic flush does not happen. You wake up and the cognitive cobwebs are still there, because they literally are. They were never cleared. The second mechanism is acetylcholine depletion. Acetylcholine is the primary neurotransmitter of memory consolidation. During sleep, your brain uses acetylcholine to transfer information from short-term storage into long-term memory. After 60, the neurons that produce acetylcholine, located in a region called the basal forebrain, begin to lose efficiency. This is measurable on neuroimaging. When acetylcholine production is insufficient during sleep, you wake up and the things you learned or experienced the day before feel thin, distant. You are not losing your memory. Your brain is failing to consolidate it properly overnight. The third mechanism is something almost no one talks about in mainstream medicine: mitochondrial inefficiency in neurons. Brain cells are the most metabolically demanding cells in your body. They require enormous amounts of energy to do their work during sleep, the repair work, the consolidation, the waste clearance. After 60, mitochondrial function in neurons begins to decline. Less ATP is produced. The cellular machinery slows down. This is why so many of my patients describe not just memory issues, but a general cognitive heaviness. A sense that their brain is working harder for less output. That is exactly what is happening at the cellular level. Now, I want you to pause on that for a moment, because if you are over 60 and you have been noticing any of these things, the slow recall, the morning fog, the words that take a second too long to arrive, I want you to understand that this is a biological process. It is not a character flaw. It is not laziness. It is not inevitable decline. It is a set of specific mechanisms, and specific mechanisms can be addressed. If what I am describing resonates with you, I want you to check the pinned comment under this video right now. I will tell you why in a moment. But if you need to pause and look, do it now. What I have there is important, and I do not want you to miss it. For years, my clinical approach focused on lifestyle, sleep hygiene, stress reduction, dietary changes, and those matter. But I kept running into a ceiling with patients who were doing everything right and still not recovering the mental clarity they remembered. That pushed me deeper into the nutritional neuroscience research, and what I found changed how I practice. Specific compounds, when taken at the right time in the right combination, can directly support each of the three mechanisms I described. Let me walk you through the evidence. Lion's mane mushroom contains compounds called hericinones and erinacines. Multiple peer-reviewed studies, including a double-blind trial published in Phytotherapy Research, showed significant improvement in cognitive function scores in adults over 60 after 16 weeks of use. The mechanism is NGF stimulation. Nerve growth factor supports the maintenance and regeneration of cholinergic neurons, the exact neurons responsible for acetylcholine production. This is not a vague brain boost. This is targeted support for the specific system that consolidates memory during sleep. Ashwagandha root extract, specifically the KSM66 form, has been shown in clinical trials to reduce cortisol levels measurably. A randomized, double-blind study published in the Indian Journal of Psychological Medicine found significant cortisol reduction and improved sleep quality in subjects taking KSM66 over 60 days. When cortisol is lower at night, the brain can access deeper sleep stages. The glymphatic system does its job. You wake up clearer. Magnesium threonate is the third compound I look at closely. Unlike other forms of magnesium, threonate crosses the blood-brain barrier efficiently. Research from MIT, published in the journal Neuron, demonstrated that magnesium threonate increases synaptic density in the hippocampus. More synaptic connections means better working memory and faster recall. My patients who added this specifically reported noticing the difference in morning cognition within 2 to 4 weeks. And CoQ10, specifically ubiquinol, addresses the mitochondrial piece directly. Ubiquinol is the active form that neurons can use immediately. It supports ATP production in brain cells. In a patient population over 60, CoQ10 levels are often significantly depleted. Supplementing the right form at the right dose helps restore the cellular energy that neurons need to do their overnight repair work properly. The research behind what I explained today converges on one point. I found a formulation that combines exactly these compounds. The link is in the pinned comment. I want to tell you about a few of my patients, because the clinical data matters, but so does what people actually experience. Robert is 69, from Texas. He came to me after his wife noticed he was repeating questions in conversation. He was convinced it was early dementia. What we found was severe cortisol disruption at night and measurable acetylcholine insufficiency. Within 6 weeks of addressing those mechanisms, he told me, and I remember his exact words, "I feel like someone turned the lights back on." His word retrieval came back. His wife stopped worrying. Bill is 73, from Ohio. He had been a sharp businessman his whole life. When he retired, he noticed his thinking felt slower, less decisive. He told me he felt like he was thinking through wet concrete. That phrase stayed with me. His mitochondrial markers were poor. His deep sleep percentage was under 12%. After we addressed the full picture, he reported that his mornings were back to normal. His words, within about a month. Frank, 71, from Michigan, had the classic acetylcholine picture. Good sleep duration, poor sleep quality, and morning brain fog that lasted until noon. He was skeptical of everything. His words were, "I don't believe in supplements." I told him I wasn't asking him to believe in them. I was asking him to look at the research and make an informed decision. He did. 3 weeks later, he called my office to say he had not had a foggy morning in 10 days. George is 66, from Pennsylvania, younger than most of my patients with this presentation. He had noticed it starting in his early 60s. Slow recall. Difficulty holding multi-step information in his head during conversations. He thought it was just stress from work. It was not just stress. It was the biological cascade beginning earlier than expected. Addressing it early made a significant difference. His follow-up cognitive assessments showed measurable improvement in working memory at the 3-month mark. What all 4 of these men have in common is this. They stopped accepting morning brain fog as normal. They looked at the biology. They made a decision based on evidence, and their brains responded. If you are waking up every morning feeling like you have to warm up before you can think clearly, that is not who you have to be. The biology is real. The mechanisms are understood. The compounds that address them are documented in peer-reviewed literature. You are not at the mercy of a number. You are at the mercy of a process. And processes can be interrupted. The link in the pinned comment below this video goes directly to the formulation I recommend to patients based on this exact research. I put it there, not in the description, because I want it to be the first thing you see. Check the pinned comment now. Look at what is in it. Read the research yourself. You have been waking up in fog long enough.